It's January, Liverpool fans, and most of you are probably thinking, I've played these games before, Squid Game style, right? Monitoring FC is back. And with all jokes aside, Michael Edwards is back. The Merseyside monster has returned to Merseyside. Well, he never really left, right? But today I want to piggyback off of that last video that we did. I'll put it right here. And I want to talk about why we're moving the way that we're moving, what's happening this January, and what Michael Edwards could potentially have planned. Um, and he's going to do what he does best, and that's piss off the entire Liverpool fan base, confuse everybody, and then come through with some sort of blockbuster deal out of nowhere, Moneyball game, Moneyball status, and shed all of our mouths. Today, I want to deep dive into some of the theories behind why Liverpool aren't spending any money, why players are potentially leaving in VVD, Salah, and Trent, and how Edwards could be quietly setting the stage for a revolution at Anfield right now, and some of the landscape that's kind of unfolding for Liverpool, FSG, and Hughes that we as football fans probably don't understand now, but we will come to understand. Hopefully, these are all theories, of course. So don't kill me in the comments here. I know you FSG outers are probably going to jump down there and accuse me for being some sort of mouthpiece for them or something like that. That's okay. That's what this channel is for. It's a platform to have a conversation. But I want to make you think today. And I want to give you some things to kind of chew on, to think about. And if you disagree, let's have a chat below. But let's jump into the video. Let's start with the $1,000,000 question. Why is Liverpool not spending any money? And I think the answer is actually pretty straightforward. Look at Chelsea, United, and even City now. They're throwing cash around like it grows on trees. And here we are, pinching pennies and not spending any money. And we haven't spent any money in close to over a year now, right? Any significant money, right? And I think the answer is pretty straightforward. Just look at the rivals, right? Look at those names that I mentioned there before. Moving contracts off the books are harder than ever right now. Clubs are struggling to offload players who haven't worked out. You look at Chelsea with their bloated squad. Who's buying these players? You look at Manchester United, another team that has a bloated squad, and they're trying to loan off some of these players with huge price tags that came with them, like Anthony, or huge wages like Marcus Rashford. The market is inflated and it's shifted, and it's not as simple as spending just to spend anymore. We can't play that game anymore in this market. Otherwise, you're going to get punished. We're not talking about the powers that be and PSR and all that financial fair play and all that extra stuff. They're not going to do anything. But the thing is, what if $100 million signing doesn't work out? Who's going to come in and basically bail your club out from having to pay this player's wages every single week and bite the bullet on that transfer fee? It's a tough market right now. And if we keep going out and trying to convince our club to buy mediocre and subpar players that don't deserve to wear a Liverpool shirt, we're going to end up just like these other clubs where Chelsea is on the rise, and, they're playing the Russian roulette kind of thing of let's buy out as many as we can and let's see who works out, and eventually someone will. I don't think that's an efficient and effective way to move and do things. Then you have Manchester United, who's trying to do the same thing. Buy a bunch of big names, spend a bunch of cash, and let's hope it works out. But then you move managers and regimes change and tactics are shifted. And now all of those players that you spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for are practicing with the reserves, and you leave your manager in a terrible position. I'd like to think that Michael Edwards is a smart guy, and he understands that the market isn't where it probably should be in terms of transfers right now. There's overpriced players everywhere. You're paying $100 million for guys that aren't even guaranteed starters in most squads. I look at a guy like Marmoush, who's going for $100 million, where a guy like Kaká, one of the greatest midfielders to ever exist, was only $67 million. Romeo Lavia, for example, for us, we were close to spending big money on him as well. And I think if we would have got him, a lot of Liverpool fans would be pretty upset right now. I talked about Anthony already, worth big money as well on huge wages. Now he's on loan at Real Betis. We can't make the same mistakes that our rivals are making just because they are just buying players. This isn't Football Manager. This isn't EAFC. This isn't FIFA. This is the actuality and the reality of owning and running a football club responsibly. And let's look at the facts here. FSG have taken us over and basically brought us from being a $300 million club to a multi-billion dollar club, renovating the stadiums, renovating our training grounds, and building something from the ground up that I think Michael Edwards has a vision for. I'm not happy all the time with some of the decisions that he makes, but I'm damn sure happy that I'm not a Manchester United fan or even a Manchester City fan, where it looks like now a lot of the decisions that they've made in the past are coming back to bite them in the ass. The FSG model isn't about splashing cash for short-term success. It's about creating a sustainable system, and it's looking more and more like the American approach versus the Roman Abramovich European approach, where money is going to solve all the issues. A lot of the times in American sports, we talk about a big three, right? You look at LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh, or in a modern example, you look at Steph, Clay, and Dre, or even look at the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. I think those are really good examples, actually. You think about the Kansas City Chiefs letting Tyreek Hill go for the Miami Dolphins because he was asking for too much money. And there's a lot of dynamics that go into that, those types of things. Rising of talents in different areas, priorities in terms of spending, prioritizing the main guy versus understanding what your true role is. The Chiefs said, you know what? That's okay. We're going to let you go and get your money elsewhere, but we're going to use the money that we were going to spend on one guy and you, and we are going to build a dynasty around these two guys. And it's worked for them so far. Same thing with the Warriors. Look at Steph, Clay, and Dre. Clay wanted more money, but there was more talents rising in the Warriors. He was aging. He's not the same player that he used to be. Yes, he's done some fantastic things in the NBA. And yes, he's done some fantastic things for the Warriors. But he has to understand that times are changing. And the three of you can't be the main guy forever, and the three of you can't demand everything forever. Does that sound familiar? Sounds a lot like VVD, Salah, and Trent. Someone behind the scenes is asking for more money. Some of them is asking just to extend the contract, and some of them is asking to be paid what they're worth. And I think that's normal, and I think that should be happening for these players, and they have the right to ask for those things. But don't be surprised if Michael Edwards, the cold-blooded killer, decides not to renew any of them and builds a whole new structure and foundation for this Liverpool team. Michael Edwards is a cold-blooded killer, and he will let go of our favorite players at the drop of a hat. And I think that's why these contracts haven't been renewed. He's not here to make us feel good. He's here to keep the structure intact. Look at Barcelona. They took a sentimental approach. They spent money where they probably shouldn't have. They listened to the fans and went big on huge signings. And now they're in an insane amount of debt. And they've been forced to go back to their roots. They've been forced to go back to what built their club, of bringing up talents from their academy and building from the ground up. And it looks to be saving their club. Edwards is going to refuse to let Liverpool fall into that trap, and more so build the club almost in the vein of Madrid and how Madrid is moving now, where they don't really spend a whole ton of money in the transfer window anymore, and they instead use their allure and their pull to bring in players on free. Expect Liverpool to exploit that in the summer and not play tit for tat with some of these other teams in the transfer market like Chelsea, United, and even City. We can't look across and say, well, they're showing more ambition than us when they're not as successful as us right now. That is a pretty obvious example of the way that things are moving in the transfer market. That is not the answer. And here's the harsh truth. This is a rebuild. Mo Salah, VVD, and Trent might all leave this year. It's either going to be now or it's either going to be in a year or two. They will leave this club. It's who we're building around is who we need to look at now. And don't kill me in the comments for this. It's Darwin Núñez, guys. Think about it. Michael Edwards is a stats guy, and Darwin Núñez numbers scream potential. Someone like Chiesa is also someone that you point to. These players, they rack up attacking actions, chances, and chances created and runs into the box. Expect Edwards to recreate, not replace, these players that we're losing. Think Moneyball. This is Moneyball in full flow, right? There's a little scene in Moneyball where they're having to get rid of one of their best players. And the guys in the boardroom are asking, well, how do we replace him? And Brad Pitt says,
Guys, we're still trying to replace Giambi. I told you we can't do it, and we can't do it. Now, what we might be able to do is recreate him.
and I think that is going to be the goal and the mission of Edwards and Hughes in the summer. Is how do we recreate Mo Salah? How do we recreate a Trent if he decides to leave? How do we recreate VVD if he decides to leave with maybe 2 or 3 guys? It's going to look different. It's going to hurt. This could potentially be the last dance for some of our favorites. But Michael Edwards does not care about what's happening this season. He does not care about our feelings and how we feel about some of the players. All he cares about is making Liverpool sustainable and successful in the long run. And here's the truth. It looks like spending money just for spending's sake isn't working anymore. And football is going back to its roots of developing players and really only dipping into the transfer market for players you feel are going to 100% make your team better. And don't get me wrong, if I had it my way, Liverpool would sign 3 players this summer. I have a list that I feel like would improve this squad. They've got us to where we are so far. Thankfully, with the appointment of Slot and Klopp, we've been able to do things that are extremely difficult to do in football. And I think Klopp understood that. I think maybe they had a meeting with Klopp and said, hey, we're not spending this summer and we're not spending in January. We're actually going to rebuild again, that front line and the back line. And we're going to save all of the money and move some players on so we can have a big summer next year. We're riding this one off. And I think Klopp maybe is thinking, it's year 10 for me, man. I'm not doing another rebuild. I'm running out of energy, which makes sense now when you look at it in hindsight. Edwards is a smart man, and maybe Hughes isn't as much as Edwards is, but he's, believe it or not, probably the mastermind behind all of these things. The transfer market is crashing, and Edwards is patient. And for those who are patient in a crashing market like in '08, those are the ones that are rewarded. Staying patient and ruthless is going to be the key in this whole thing, and Edwards has that in spades. I think he's ahead of the curve. I think he's building something from the ground up where everyone else is overspending on mediocrity. You can look at this whole thing as us not showing ambition, but I think it's us having common sense. You can say that money does solve footballing problems, but money has never won a trophy and it never will. You can look back at Manchester City and you can say, okay, they've spent money, but don't forget the fact that they also had one of the greatest managers in Premier League history to drive the money behind it. Otherwise, you'll end up a lot like the Manchester United situation in Eric Ten Hag. Money needs to be well spent, and it needs to be spent on the right players. This could be the last dance for many of our beloved favorites. Salah, VVD, Trent, they all might go. But this is not the end, more so the beginning of something new. Edwards is playing a long game, and I think he's been planning this for a long time. And regardless of what happens this season, it is not going to change his long-term plans. Whether you like it or not, he doesn't care about your feelings. He's building the future and not reacting to the present. And I think he truly believes that a board that is reactive is a board that is fragile. The long-term plan will stay intact. Let's see if the Merseyside Monster still has magic in those genes. And let's hope that he can perform another masterstroke in the summer and Arne Slot can perform a miracle this season. But he must tread lightly. Toying with fans' emotions in a club like Liverpool typically does not end well. He damn sure better be right, or there's going to be riots at Anfield. And FSG out will ring louder and louder than it's ever done before. But for now, I trust the man. He's insane. And I think we're in for a huge summer. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Are you back in Edwards' vision? And don't forget to like, comment, and share this video if you loved it. Love you all. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Up the Reds. And don't forget, change is hard, but champions adapt. Until next time, peace.